Whether through the old legend itself, or maybe through the immensely popular movie series, The Pirates of the Caribbean, you've probably heard of Davy Jones and his ship, the Flying Dutchman, and also his famous locker. However, his story in The Pirates of the Caribbean is nothing like the real story, except for the fact that Davy Jones is the captain of the famous Flying Dutchman. Mariners used to tell terrifying stories to each other about this legendary pirate, but who was he exactly? And where does the legend come from? And what is Davy Jones's locker? Let's try and find out.
Hello, I'm Mike Droberg, Marine Corps veteran and filmmaker, and we will try to answer these questions on today's episode of Forgotten History.
It is unclear when the Davy Jones stories exactly took place, but it was probably around the 1500s when people started traveling at sea much more frequently. Among the different stories, some depict him as a pirate, the devil, and an evil god of the seas. One theory is that Davy Jones was the owner of a British pub. He would get sailors drunk and lock them in his ale locker. Then he would sell their unconscious bodies as crews to ships in need of sailors that were passing through the harbor. The story also goes on to say that Davy Jones's pub eventually went bankrupt, which made him decide to become a pirate. He stole a ship from the harbor and sailed across the Atlantic Ocean, hijacking other ships and ruthlessly decapitating or keel-hauling most of the crew who did not surrender. Keel-hauling was a cruel form of punishment and execution. Historians believe that keel-hauling may have been introduced by the Dutch Navy by William of Orange. On October 11th, 1652, under Jan van Riebeck's command, Jan Blank, a sailor, was keel-hauled, whipped a total of 150 lashes, and then enslaved for 2 years as punishment for deserting. Keel-hauling is performed by plunging the delinquent repeatedly under the ship's bottom on one side and hoisting him up the other, having passed under the keel of the ship. The blocks or pulleys by which he is suspended are fastened to the opposite extremities of the main yard, and a weight of lead or iron is hung among his legs to sink him to a competent depth. By this apparatus he is drawn close to the yard arm and also let to suddenly fall into the sea, where, passing under the ship's bottom, he is hoisted up the opposite side of the vessel. Most sailors would not survive the punishment and drown. Finally, if not decapitated or keel-hauled, the surviving crew will be locked in the ship, and the ship would be damaged so that it could be sunk. There are also actual records of a pirate by the name of Davy Jones, who sailed the seas across the Indian Ocean around the 1630s, but this pirate captain wasn't that well known, and most historians do not think he could have gathered such worldwide fame. In other stories, Davy Jones is the captain of the Flying Dutchman, a legendary ghost ship, allegedly never able to make port, and doomed to sail the seas forever. The myths and ghost stories are likely to have originated from the 17th century golden age of the Dutch East India Company. According to legend, if hailed by another ship, the crew of the Flying Dutchman might try to send messages to land or to people that are long dead. Reported sightings in the 19th and 20th centuries claimed that the ship glowed with a ghostly light. In ocean lore, the sight of this phantom ship functions as a portent of doom. It was commonly believed that the Flying Dutchman was a 17th century cargo vessel known as a flute. Originating in the Dutch Republic in the 16th century, the vessel was designed to facilitate transoceanic delivery with a maximum of space and crew efficiency. Unlike rivals, it was not built for conversion in wartime to a warship, so it was cheaper to build and carry twice the cargo and could be handled by a smaller crew. It is a common superstition of mariners that in the high southern latitudes on the coast of Africa, hurricanes are frequently ushered in by the appearance of the Flying Dutchman. Another theory is that the crew of this vessel are supposed to have been guilty of some dreadful crime and and said to have been stricken with pestilence, and are ordained to traverse the ocean, on which they perished, till the period of their penance is expired. Sir Walter Scott was the first to refer to the vessel as a pirate ship, writing in the notes to Rockby, a poem first published in December of 1812, that the ship was originally a vessel loaded with great wealth, on board of which some horrid acts of murder and piracy had been committed, and that the apparition of the ship is considered by mariners as the worst of all possible omens. There have also been many reported or alleged sightings in the 19th and 20th centuries. One of the most well-known sightings was recorded by Prince George of Wales, the future King George V. He was on a 3-year voyage during his late adolescence in 1880 with his elder brother, Prince Albert Victor of Wales, aboard the HMS Inconstant. The Prince's log records the following at the pre-dawn hours of 11 July 1881 off the coast of Australia. At 4 a.m., the Flying Dutchman crossed our bows. A strange red light, as of a phantom ship all aglow, in the midst of which it lights the masts, spars, and sails of a brig 200 yards distant stood out in strong relief as she came up the port bow, where also the officer of the watch from the bridge clearly saw her, as did the quarterdeck shipman, who was sent forward at once to the forecastle. But on arriving there was no vestige nor any sign of whatever of any material ship was to be seen, either near or right away to the horizon, the night being clear and the sea calm. 13 persons altogether saw her. Then, at 10:45 a.m., an ordinary seaman, who had this morning reported the Flying Dutchman, fell from the fore topmast cross trees onto the topgallant forecastle and was smashed to atoms. Moving on to the earliest written mentionings of Davy Jones's locker comes from the book 4 Years' Voyage of Captain George Roberts by Daniel Defoe in 1726, and The Adventures of Peregrine Pickle by Tobias Smollett in 1751. Both of those books describe Davy Jones as a deity of death, the final resting place of dead sailors. During the years when the legend of Davy Jones was at its highest, many sailors refused to discuss anything related to it in great detail. However, there's a long-standing tradition of celebrating the crossing of the equatorial line that includes paying homage to Davy Jones. Popularization of Davy Jones's locker happened during the 19th century. His important mentionings happened in the works of Washington Irving, Edgar Allan Poe, Herman Melville, Charles Dickens, and most famously in Robert Louis Stevenson's 1883 novel, Treasure Island. Continuing into the 20th century, Davy Jones was mentioned in many books and songs, but his most notable appearance happened in Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean movie franchise, where he was featured as the undying evil spirit that collects the souls of dying pirates while traveling in his legendary ship, the Flying Dutchman. And his locker was portrayed as a sort of purgatory for the dead souls. Davy Jones' locker is a sailor's synonym for the ocean floor. A locker was another name for a chest back in the day, so being sent to Davy Jones' locker actually means dying at sea. In some stories, evil and wicked sailors who died at sea were locked up in the chest by Davy Jones and had to spend an eternity trapped there. In the Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, Davy Jones was the main villain. He was supposed to bring the souls from sunken ships to work aboard the Flying Dutchman. Instead of going into the afterlife, Jones proposes that the dead men come to work on his ship for 100 years and convinces them that the afterlife is even worse. He also commands the mythical beast, the Kraken. In conclusion, Davy Jones remains a legendary figure whose lore has transcended the boundaries of history and myth. Whether as a feared pirate captain of maritime folklore or a supernatural character in popular culture, his legacy endures as a symbol of the treacherous and mysterious nature of the sea. The tales of Davy Jones continues to captivate our imagination, reminding us of the eternal allure and perils of the ocean's depths. Let us know your thoughts on Davy Jones.
Thank you for watching Forgotten History. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you have any comments or show ideas, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks again.